And finally, oh fuck, we've been going on for a while. Chicken Little. So the first of the fully CG Disney animated films, because Dinosaur was CG composited into real footage weirdness. Chicken Little was the first one, and Chicken Little, okay, I think I was expecting to hate Chicken Little more than I ended up hating it. It's not a terrible film. It just kind of happens. It's just kind of a mediocre movie, is how I would describe it. It's a movie that just sort of things happen and they go along, and then it ends, and then it's over. And you're like, that certainly was a film. So first off, what year is Chicken Little? It's like 2005. Okay, I gotta talk about a weird personal experience I have with Chicken Little. Not Chicken Run. That's a better movie than this. 2005. So in 2005, I was 3 years old. So this is sort of the first Disney movie that I remember coming out. This is like a really deep memory. And I remember the premise of this movie is that the sky is falling and no one believes Chicken Little. And then, of course, the sky is falling. And I remember this movie being the first time I ever remember experiencing a sense of, like, dread or foreboding. Because it's like, dog, I'm just learning what the sky is. Now you're telling me it's falling? That was just kind of a weird thing as a kid to compute. Yeah. I don't know, just, I have these weird thoughts thinking back on being a kid, and because I never really saw it as a kid. I think I caught, like, bits and pieces of it. But knowing the marketing and seeing, like, a little bit of the movie myself, like, on TV, just one of those, like, something about it always struck me as really, really odd and off-putting. Like stressful. Maybe it's just, like, a weird association with childhood trauma, but it's, like, stressful to think back about this movie for some reason. In any event. It's a 2005 movie. It does not look good. It is not a good-looking movie. It came out, like... When was Jimmy Neutron? When was Jimmy Neutron? Exactly. Boy penis. 2001. Oh, there's no excuse. There's no excuse. Because you could swear... I'm watching the trailer for Jimmy Neutron right now. You would swear it's like the same year or just about. It looks maybe marginally better in terms of its textures, but like... no, it's not a great looking movie. Kat said during it, she said it feels like the movie needed another pass at rendering, like the lighting wasn't done or something. It's not as stiff as Jimmy Neutron, which I guess is a noticeable improvement, but yeah, it is not what you would imagine 5 years of progress to look like. I guess it's also their first go at a fully CG movie, so it's like, you know, whatever. But yeah, it is not a very pretty movie to look at. We can get over that. So what is Chicken Little about? Chicken Little opens with Chicken Little, who is a chicken, and he's little, running around telling everyone that the sky is falling and causing a giant commotion. Ends up somehow tipping over a water tower and like fucking destroying a bunch of property. Now it's like a year later or something, and he's basically like a social pariah because he's a fucking idiot. Because it was just like, someone's, oh, it's just an acorn that fell on your head. And he has this kind of strained relationship with his father because his father's embarrassed by him, and he ends up like trying to make it. He embarrasses himself at school. He's got this friend, she's a duck, and he has this other friend who's a big fat pig, and he has this other friend who's a fish, and they are like, there's like a weird scene where they're playing dodgeball at school, and the coach splits them up by like popular versus unpopular. Okay. What did she compare this to? What did she? I'm gonna go DM her right now. What did you compare Chicken Little to? You said it was really, it was because the world felt really mean. She compared it to something, I can't remember it. Maybe she'll get back to me before this is done. Because the world is just, everyone's made, oh, moral oral. That's what she said. Yeah, that's what it was. Thanks. She said it was like moral oral, which I've never seen, but she said the whole town is just very mean-spirited. Like, they're making a movie called like Crazy Chicken Little or Little Crazy Chicken, something like that. Like, just with his whole image. They're making a feature film about how fucking stupid and dumb he is, which is crazy. So, the film does this weird thing where it's like, I don't know, so Chicken Little has to regain the trust of his father and the respect of his father, repair the relationship, right? And so in order to do this, he enrolls in the baseball team, right? Because his dad was a star baseball player. And then he's, he doesn't get any spots on the team. He's not doing anything. He's constantly outshone. And then suddenly they're at like this big important game, and he has to come off the bench because someone got injured or something, or someone got out, and he's got to go up to bat. And he's like, I believe in myself, and he gets like 2 strikes, and it's like, and then he gets a home run, and he wins, and then everyone loves him, and his dad is like, you know what? I was silly for doubting you. I really do. I'm sorry, for the way that I acted towards you. I am proud of you, son. And this happens in like the first 30 minutes. And it's like, what? It's like the entire all of the emotional stake of the plot is resolved in the first 30 minutes. And it's super strange. Why? What is the reason for that? Why was this not a thing that progressed over the entire movie? No, instead, right after essentially this story is done, it veers into an almost unrelated story about the sky actually falling, and it turns out that, like, the Earth is being observed by aliens who have, like, cloaked their ships to look like the sky, and one of them has, like, a faulty panel or whatever, and it falls and it hits him on the head, or it falls into his room. And this leads him and his friends to finding this alien spaceship, and this little orange kind of troll doll looking thing comes out, and then aliens start invading the Earth because they're looking for their kid, and then it's this big thing, and then they return the kid to the aliens, and then at some point through that, Chicken Little's father doubts him again, and he's like, hey, remember 30 minutes ago from in the movie when you said that you believed in me? And he's like, yeah, I do remember 30 minutes ago in the movie when I said that. And then Chicken Little saves the day, and then it's over. It's when I say the movie happens, I think what I'm really saying is I'm understanding I'm understanding this in real time. I'm figuring it out. Bear with me. I think what I'm really saying is that the film basically expends all of its emotional weight in the first half and then just kind of does shit for the rest of the movie with no real emotional stakes. Which is what's actually interesting. I don't fucking care about the world of Chicken Little getting annihilated by aliens. Like, I genuinely don't care. The fucking the town sucks ass anyway. They're total assholes to him. Why should I care? I don't care about this town or this community. I guess I somewhat care. The movie has put in some work to make me care about Chicken Little and his dad. But other than that, it's like, I don't care about what's going on or like the conflict of the alien having to return to his parents. There's very little interaction between the main characters and the alien anyway. So it's just, the second half of the movie just feels very empty and light. It's a very light feeling movie in its second half. So it just kind of goes by without much impact on you at all. It's a very odd way to structure your movie. Like, you basically got the important stuff, the actual meaningful stuff out of the way in the first half. Like, ultimately, I feel like what makes a story, well, there's a lot of kinds of stories, but in this kind of a story that is trying to be more character-based, all of it's almost like it fails to recognize what kind of a story it is. Because what makes a story like this compelling is emotion. It's emotion because why should we care? Like, stories aren't real. They're not real, right? Ultimately, the events of a film are not really going to change your life in like a real way. Like, I'm not talking about being I mean, like, okay, the world is not actually going to blow up, you know? Dawn of the Dead happens, and the world is not actually invaded by zombies. There is no, like, survival, pragmatic reason to care about fiction. The reason you care is because of, like, empathic responses, or empathetic responses. I don't know which one's the right one in that sentence. Empathetic responses. If you find a character interesting, if you find them relatable, if it's interesting for you to put yourself in the shoes of that character, and think about what you would do, what you would feel, that's how you get invested into a story. How would I feel in this crazy situation? The modern structure of telling a story is dependent on a character's normal life being thrown into disarray, into something crazy happening, and that forcing them to undergo some kind of change, or forcing things around them to change. Mirroring, you know, which is sort of like those stories, fiction tends to kind of package things from our life, arcs from our own lives, into a more compact form. Like, you might undergo a change over years, but in a movie it'll take place in the span of, 90 minutes. And that's really that's the compelling thing about it. In real life, people don't always have a whole character development thing and really turn around in the space of in a short amount of time as you see in most stories, but it's just like a representation of those things. So, like, you need, if you want to invest the audience in your story, it's like, okay, what are we getting them hooked on? Is what's the appeal of this movie? You look at something like, I don't know, John Wick, and the appeal of those movies very upfront is just the action, it's the visuals and stuff like that. Sometimes it can be the mood or the atmosphere of a film. Sometimes it's the characters. Most stories end up going for a character being kind of character driven. where the I don't know if that's the right usage of that term, but you kind of, I think you kind of know what I mean. Bless you, someone just sneezed in another room. Most of them kind of tend to go the way of being character driven, in that you're supposed to be interested in the story because you care about the characters and what's happening to them is interesting. It doesn't mean I don't agree with the idea that every protagonist has to be likable per se. I think a protagonist just has to be, to get invested, I think a character just has to be interesting and understandable. That's the motto that I go by personally, is they don't have to be likable, relatable, or sympathetic. They just have to be understandable and interesting. I look at a character like, I don't know, Light Yagami from Death Note. He is not likable. He is not relatable. And he is not sympathetic. But he's fascinating, and you love watching him, right? And that's a great protagonist. I realize I'm talking about Chicken Little. I'm very off base, but I feel like the flaw of this film is kind of interesting. Because someone's sneezing. The flaw of this movie is kind of interesting because it just sort of fumbles on a core part of what makes fiction compelling and worthwhile in the first place. Can I say that's a shame? I suppose it's a shame, because we could have gotten a more interesting movie. But yeah, I can't say I would recommend Chicken Little too much. It's certainly a way to, there are better ways to pass an afternoon.